Today, we're going to talk about mega trees. Wrong clip, guys. Let's try this one more time. Today, we're going to talk to you about mega trees. All right. Whoever's in charge of running the B-roll, can we get the right clip behind me? One more time. Mega trees. There we go. And this may have been something you saw this last holiday season in a display that maybe inspired you to create your own display or add one of these features to an existing display that you already had in place. Well, in this episode, we're going to break down all the different pieces that you need to create one using the Boscoyo Mega Tree kit as our base core unit. It's going to be a simple, basic tree. We're going to go over the cost, the different pieces that you need to get, how to model it in xLights, how to set it all up in your yard. Even though Christmas is past, we're going to make my neighbors outside wonder what the heck is going on. We're going to put this thing up again. And we're all done. You should be able to figure out how to create your own mega tree for your display. So let's jump to it. So like we mentioned in the intro, today we're going to go over all the things you need to do to build your very first mega tree. And it's a very simple tree to build. It's going to be a 16 strand, 180 degree tree. We're going to use 800 pixels because we're going to do 2-inch spacing on our pixel strips, which will give us about 8.5 feet of height, almost, depending on the space you have at the bottom of the tree. And then we're going to add a 23-inch star on top, which will put us between 11 and 12 feet for total height, which is a great starting place, especially for your first tree. It's not too expensive to put together, and we'll cover the costs of everything here in just a little bit. But the main core component of our tree is going to be using the Boscoyo Mega Tree kit for the 16/32. So if you did need to have a 360-degree tree, because people can view all sides of it, maybe you have a corner lot, then you could still use this same kit to build that tree. And it's a great kit. It comes with a topper. It comes with a guy wire holders. It comes with your guy wires, as well as it comes with a little base plug to help hold your pole in place. And they've got some great instructions on their website of how to set the tree up using their kit. I have a few modifications to their rules, I think, just to make things a little more sturdy. After my first time experiencing it, just to kind of enhance the entire process for you. So, I mean, the basic core kit is $62. That includes all those different pieces. You're also going to need to get your strips, and you're going to need 12mm pixel strips because you're going to use bullet pixels to make your tree. And these ones are really good. The strips, unfortunately, aren't a perfect length to do one whole strand of 50 up. It would only hold about 46 lights. So you're going to need 2 strips basically per strip that you're going to make, and you'll zip tie them together, and I'll show you that process. And you also want some extra room at the top or the bottom when you first start making them, and then you can trim that down once you've got everything finalized for the particular height that you're going to do. But it's good to have that little extra room at the top and the bottom of the strips. And they're $1.40 a piece. And then you're going to need some clips. And these are to go at the ends of your strips, which give it a little more stability when you're mounting it to the top of your star, as well as to the bottom ring or the ground if you're just going to nail it into the ground, which some people do, especially with a small type tree. And then we're going to need to get a star. And for that, we decided to go with the Boscoyo 23-inch star. It's about the right size for an 8.5-foot tall tree. You don't want the star just really huge. And it's got 3 rings, so you can do some patterns with that, which really will look good. After that, we're going to go over to Wally's Lights to get our lights. And you can get your lights anywhere. This is just a vendor that I've used over the years that I've had some great customer service with, and I enjoy purchasing their product. Because we're buying a small amount, though, it's a little more expensive. Typically, a lot of the vendors will have pre-buys where if you buy a larger quantity of 3,000 or more, you'll get a better price. So that's why it's always good to plan out your whole display first and what you're going to need before you make your purchases. But if you're just buying this on its own, it's going to be about $150 just for the lights. And then a few odds and ends that you can pick up on Amazon. You're going to need some anchors for your guy wires to hold them into the ground, as well as if you're going to do a base ring, it's good to have some anchors to hold that to the ground also. We like to use bungee ball attachments for the bottom to get the loops to our ring, but you can use zip ties. You don't have to use the bungee balls. This is just something we like to use for convenience, and it really helps us when it comes to adjusting because we can slide them a little bit to make things a perfect fit. And then you're going to need some zip ties, and you don't have to get them from Amazon. We just typically do because they're there, and you're going to go through a lot of zip ties and in a lot of different sizes. But for this one, primarily, you're going to use just the little 4-inch black ones to do all of that. So that's all the particular pieces that you're going to need to put this item together. So now let's jump over to the spreadsheet and break down the total cost. So here we are, the total cost to build a 16 strand Mega Tree. Now, if you wanted 1-inch spacing, you'll need to double the pixel count to keep that same height. If you wanted a 360-degree tree, you're going to need to double the pixels as well as the number of strips you need and the number of bungee balls because you're doubling this total strip count. If you're going to double and increase, well, then you're totally increasing the costs exponentially. But the other components like the topper things will all remain the same. I also recommend getting a pixel pusher, which I didn't talk about earlier, and they're about $4. Or if you have a 3D printer, you can print your own. There's plenty of people who have the STI plan, so you can print your own for that. Another option that we didn't talk about earlier is getting J hooks, and that's for the topper to hook your strips onto. It's an option. You don't have to do it. It adds about another $24 to the total cost. I like to use the J hooks, but you can simply use zip ties to attach your strips to the topper for your tree. It's not a requirement. It's just a personal preference. I like the look and the way J hooks work. If I need to take something off for quick repair, I'm not cutting zip ties on the ladder. It's just something I choose to do that way. So that's the total price. Not too bad. You know, if you're going to do J hooks, about $450 total to build this tree. Before we go to the workbench, though, to show you all the little components individually, I kind of want to take you into xLights and show you how the tree is set up in there. There's always some confusion on total number of strips, lights per strip, ports, all that things to make sure your tree looks well and it renders correctly, as well as I'll show you a couple of really quick, fast submodels you can do on your tree to help you do some different looks when it comes to sequencing on your tree itself. So with that, let's jump into xLights. Okay, so here we are in xLights, and we're going to drop in our tree, and then we're going to drop in a star after that. So let's click on our tree and drop it in. Perfect. And we're doing the Boscoyo Chroma Star. So we're going to go to Boscoyo under downloads. That's the little arrow here. If it's a vendor prop, most of them have their props already in the system. So we're going to go to stars, and we're doing the 23-inch 3-ring Chroma Star. And we're going to say to insert the model. And there we go. We've got our star, and we'll just take and drop it right on top. So there's our tree and our star. The tree, though, when you drop in build any new tree, it's going to default you at 360 degrees, 16 strands, and 50 lights per strand. So we need to make some changes based on how we're going to do things. Now we're using 12-volt pixels for this. You could easily do 4 strands, 50 up, down, up, down. That's 200 pixels per strand, per port, basically, and not have any issue, especially if you're running at about 30%, which is all you need to do for power brightness on a Mega Tree, because it's a lot of lights. It's very bright. So we're going to make some changes over here on the left-hand side. We're going to make this 180 degrees, as we can see that. Number of strings, we're not going to need 16. So let's just say we're going to do 8 strands. We're just going to go up, down. That way, if one light goes out, we only lose 2 strands on our tree. But it's going to be 100 pixels per strand. And it's going to be 2 strands per string, which now gives us the 16. Now, if we were going to go up, down, and up, down, we would then change this to 4 strings at 200. And then it's going to go up, down 4 times. And you'd have the same look. So that's how you are going to make sure you've modeled your tree correctly in 8Lights. It's making sure you get the number of strings. That's the string. So if you're connecting strings together, that's if you have 200 pixels, That's one string, because it's two sets of 100 grouped together into one. So you have to count how many sections of that you have, and then number of strands per string. Well, it's 4, up, down, up, down. How many up, downs you do and that gives you the total correct number. So that's what you have to make sure. Otherwise, it's going to look really wonky. Not only here, like if I had the wrong amount of pixels here, I only said it was 100. It's going to look really weird. So you want to make sure you have things correctly set up in your xLights. And then as far as brightness, I always check mark the brightness, and then I will set the brightness at 30%. And we'll save that. And a couple of really quick submodels that you can do that are really easy. You're going to click on submodels, and you're just going to click on edit and generate slices. That's what we want to do. So let's name this one vertical, and we want 5 vertical slices. And we're going to say OK, and we're going to click edit again, and we're going to add some more slices. And this time we're going to go horizontal. And we want 5 horizontal slices, so we're going to select horizontal, say OK, and that's going to put it's going to give us some submodels already in the tree. So we're going to say that's great. We're going to click OK, and if we go to our tree, it'll show the submodels that are there, and you can see that now we can have sections going across and sections going up that we can program individually. So that gives us a few different options when it comes to mapping a sequence onto a tree. You can play with some of the submodels to get different effects, which is a nice thing to do. So with that, we've got all these pieces together now. We showed you how to set it up in xLights. Let's break down and show you all the individual pieces and how to put your strips together and push your pixels into your strips, which is a pretty easy process, but we're just going to cover all these basics. So let's jump to the bench. Okay, let's go over some of the parts that you get with the Boscoyo kit. The main one is the tree topper. It does not come with J-bolts, but as you can see, we added J-bolts so that we could easily attach our pixels to them just by slipping them over and locking them in, just like so. That's how we hang our pixels on this particular topper. But you can just as easily run a zip tie right through the hole and connect it right to your topper, to your strip. That's how you do that. These little bolts in here is how you adjust the tightness. This is where you would put the 3/4 inch EMT pipe, which you need to purchase on your own. Kits don't come with it. So that's something you have to do. If it's a little tight getting on, loosen up your nuts here and maybe put something to pry this open just a little bit, which will open up this hole because that's how it tightens. And these nuts here just tighten the 3 sections together. So there's really no need to mess with those as long as they're tight. Okay. When you insert the pole, and I'll show you a picture, maybe flash one up here, we have about a foot of pipe sticking out of the top. So it's up about 9 feet on the pole, which for us was the right height based on our yard because we have an angled yard, so the pixels come out a little bit further, and we have a base that's raised a little bit. But that's something that you can figure out on your own the first time you put it up. It's always good to say where my pixels lie and how high do I need to make this or lower this. And then once your final adjustments are done, tighten it down permanently so it will not move. But that's the topper. Pretty good piece of equipment there. You also get this ring. And this ring is so when you set your EMT, it doesn't go into the ground. This keeps it from going into the dirt. They recommend using these large nails for this process, but we wanted to give it some more support, so we actually bored out the hole, and we'll talk about this when we're in the yard too. And we use one of these, 24-inch long, which now fits through there, but we put it into the ground at least halfway, so now the pole is going to be on top of this for support, as well as it still fits and is not bored out so much that the pipe goes into the dirt. It's still caught by that lip that's in there. So that's what we did with their base piece. We just modified it a little bit, a little more stability when you've got that pole sticking up through it. Then the other thing that comes with the kit is a ring for securing your guy wires to. They just simply go right into here, and it holds 3 of them. That's really all you need with this
10-foot tall pole. You don't need a whole lot. But we over tightened, and this is why you should never over tighten anything, and we snapped it. So that was our mistake, but it was fine. And you just need to adjust where you're going to have this, typically about maybe a foot below where you have the topper here. It's enough to get some support for the small size of a tree that you're doing. You want to make sure that you use all three, but it's just measuring the cords that they gave you on an angle out, and then that's when you would put in your yard anchors to attach them to. But because we broke that, we used these. These are Maker Pipe attachments, and they're a good company. Also make sure they're linked in the description. But they make clamps for 3/4 inch EMT for putting things together. And you can make all kinds of stuff, including mounts for your matrices and things like that. So we're going to use these because we broke this, our mistake on that. And then the bungee balls is what we use to attach them. And you'll see it when we're out there, but we simply just put it through the bottom, loop it around our pole that's anchored, and lock it in on the bungee. It's a pretty simple process, and they work out great. But you can also use, like I said, zip ties to secure that also. And they also, some people like to take these nails and just pop them through here to anchor them into the dirt. But I found that they do come loose, especially if you have any kind of wind. They'll start to loosen these up because these really don't hold things down very well. And those little MSR clips, those are what go in the ends here to give it some more stability for hooking things through so you don't tear or damage the strip itself. And they hook on, they just fold over one, and then you zip tie it through the zip holes that are already there, which would be 1, 2, 3. It takes up 3 extra holes. So when you're, like I said, you need to make sure you have extra holes when you're creating your own strips. And I did 10 extra holes on either side. I created strips which were long enough to do the whole thing, and I had not attached the clips yet. I just had my lengths to hold 50 lights plus 10 extra holes on either end. And then here's where you can see where you have to put them together. And it's the same thing, you just overlap the holes and zip tie them in to expand to make the longer pieces, which you're going to need to do. But once you've got the lengths you have, then you can figure out, after you've made the tree, how many you want to cut off and then where you want to have the clip. For me, my clip is here, that's zip tied to the pole, and my first pixel typically starts about here. So there's only 1 extra pixel in it, which I'll show you on an actual strip. Here we go, right here. So here's the strip, 1, 2, third holes where I put my first pixel after I folded it over, but I still started out with 10, and then I went and started putting in that. So I cut off 6 holes because I got 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4 extra holes. So that's what I did to create that. And then the top, when you come up, because you got to do strings of 100 lights, when you come up one side, you're just going to start coming down the other side and count off your extra pixel spaces. And then I made it the same way down. When I put them all together too, I marked one of them as silver. So I knew that was the one that went in on the left side, and this one went in on the right side, because data always flows left to right when you do your pixels. So that keeps your chains and your strings in the right spot and in the right direction when you attach them. Something to keep in mind when you're doing that. And that's all the basic pieces of the kit, plus the add-ons that you need to put the tree together, which we're going to go do in the yard. But I'll let you know, stick around to the end, because we're going to be giving away this topper kit, which is going to include the top and this ring. We will not include the broken piece because we broke it, but we're going to include 4 of these, so you can use these to attach your guy wires to the pole. And we're also going to give away 16 strips already pre-done with the MSR clips in them. So it's pretty much the whole thing. All you need to go out and do is buy your EMT pole, your big giant spike, your yard anchors, maybe a few little hooks to help tighten your guy wires down with, and you'll be set to go. And your bungee balls, or zip ties if you choose to. So we're going to give you everything but the lights and the poles and a few other odds and ends, so you'll be able to put your own up. The full rules for that will be at the end of this video, and we'll also have it in the description. So stick around for that. And now let's go jump out into the yard and put this thing together. Here we are outside. Beautiful spring day in Seattle, Washington. Good day to do this part of the presentation. We've got all of our pieces out, laid out in the yard, our 16 strips of lights, and we'll show you those individually up close here in just a second. We've got our 3/4 inch EMT with the Boscoyo topper on it, and this is normally used for the guy wires, but I over torqued it and broke it, so we're using some maker pipe connectors to hold on our cables. And then here is the bottom plate nail, and we made the hole a little bit bigger, which will hold things on when we put it on, and this will add some stability to our 3/4 inch pipe when we drop it in place. So it's just a little extra stability, which is why we did that part. Then of course we're going to attach them to the ring with bungee cords, little bungee balls, as opposed to some people who use the nails. And the reason is with the soil here, it just gets too loose and we want something a little tighter, so we're going to use a ring. So on our lights, to kind of show you here, these are 100 strings, 50 up, 50 down, and on the back, where we connect it at the top, we have the left one marked with silver paint, so we know that one goes on first, and then the other one goes on because it's got the output at the bottom. And you want to make sure you have them in the right order, depending on if you're going to run 200 per string or 100 per string. And you can go easily 200 per string, 50 up, 50 down, twice off one port. So let's go ahead and mount the camera, and we'll get all of the strips on, and then we'll also mount the star, and then we'll get ready to raise this up. I don't know if you can see that with the star, but we actually, let's bring it up here. To hold it in place, we pin it between some J-hooks so the star won't rotate with any wind when it's at the top. So now let's go ahead, and I guess we're going to lift this up. All right, so that's her all up, and now we'll go ahead and spread everything out and get the bungee balls attached, and we'll have it all set. So before we take and attach them all in, you can see the base we've got anchored also, so the ring won't come up any higher than that. My yard is sloped slightly, so it needs to be higher on the front end. So we're going to go ahead and set the camera down and get all these base rings in, and then show you just a couple little tricks that we do for stabilizing. And there you have it. And we've got about 3-inch spacing across the bottom, which was pretty good for a 16 strand tree. That's why we only went 4 feet wide at the base. We may have gone even a little bit smaller. The tighter, the better you're going to get for definition, especially if you don't have a lot of lights. These are 2-inch spacing on the actual strips. And then we're going to show you now a little tip we did. And to give the tree the final touch, just a little added stability, I took one of these strips here that we used to do the lights with. And if you go up and down far enough, you'll find one where it matches up holes for holes all the way across. So you can zip tie a strip, which kind of helps if you get a lot of wind. Keeps them all straight, kind of bound together a little bit, and keeps your lines clean. So just a little final tip on that. We also built a stand for our controller box that was angled, so we can set it on this ledge and the cords will fly this way. Because 3/4 inch pipe with not much support, I really didn't want to mount a controller to it. So that keeps it up off the ground. We don't get snow here. It's Washington. You may want to put yours on top of something higher if you get some snow. And that is it. We'll just kind of wrap it up inside. Well, it looks like we've come full circle. Hopefully you got a lot of good information out of this video to help you put together your own Mega Tree. They're a wonderful piece to add to any holiday display, and we think you'll get years of enjoyment out of it. And if you like this Boscoyo kit, we are going to be giving it away. And to win it, you only need to be a subscriber of our channel, like the video, and leave a comment as to why you'd like to win the tree or where you would put this tree in your particular display. As always, we really want to thank you for watching and supporting our channel. Think about giving us a thumbs up. It really does help us out. Maybe hit that subscribe button over here, and we'll see you on the next one.